The most important thing that I want to remind you of is look at the masthead on Whereitzat. It says, "We tell your stories." Not our stories, your stories. And this is what we're doing.
Whereitzat.
Howdy, folks. This is Clive Williams back with you. We promised that we were going to talk to someone who is so important in the community that you'd want to wait with bated breath, anticipating that particular person. We had introduced him at that time as Bobby Clark. We're going to tell you more about Bobby today, but let me reintroduce Chris to you. We're related, aren't we?
I think so. I think I know you. I've known you probably all my life.
Yeah.
Rumor has it you're my father. I don't know.
We went over that
hasn't been confirmed.
on the first segment.
Hasn't been confirmed. Hasn't been confirmed. Jury's still out. Waiting on DNA tests to see if it's real.
And all that good stuff.
Yeah. So, but I'll call you daddy for now.
Okay. I call
Dad,
you Dad. I call you son.
I don't want to call you daddy. I call you dad.
Folks, it's great to be back with you. And Whereitzat is Whereitzat, okay?
It's where you want to be.
That's where you want to be.
Yeah.
Whereitzat, as we've told you before, we've been around for 20 years. We have made an effort to be your platform. We speak to your needs, your interests, whatever it is that you need to talk about, we're there for you. This is a series where we're going to be highlighting people like Robert Clark. We call him Bobby. People who have really made an impact on our community in a very special way. Bobby has, from scratch, had a vision where he started a communications media company that would inform, educate, and entertain our community. He stayed true to that mission and his passion for 30 years. And at the point of celebrating 30 years, that dream, that mission was upended by a circumstance that we're going to discuss today. So let me introduce our guest today, Robert Clark, Irie Media, and he'll tell you more about the global network that he put in place. We're going to discuss all that. And Chris, do you want to say anything about Bobby? You've known Bobby since you were
I've known Bobby. Well, no, I wasn't a kid. I was a teenager? Yeah, I was a teenager. Yeah. So it's been a long time, man. Yeah. It's good to see you all grown up. It's good to see you.
You're both all grown up as far as I'm concerned.
You know what I'm saying? But it's good seeing you, man.
Listen, it's great to be here.
Yeah.
I thank you guys for inviting me to this podcast.
No, man. It's look. This podcast is for people like yourself, and Bobby, you've had a mission. You've had a journey that is profound. Mm-hmm. All right. Irie Media. Tell folks who are not familiar who you are and what this was about.
Right. So 30 years ago, this year, I was blessed to start this journey. So I was out of college. I was here in New York. I had a travel agency in the Bronx with a partner of mine, and this Rastafarian walked in. Again, he said he was on a radio station and he wanted to buy ads. For me to buy ads, I said, "Oh, okay, sure." And I said, "Before you start selling, our people need more radio, more media."
Yeah.
And I have an idea. I wanted to, when I left Jamaica, where I was born, it was getting great. The radio was great there. When I came here, it wasn't so great.
Oh yeah, it was. So who was this guy selling for?
Milford Edwards had a show with a man called Junior Jawara Blake.
Right. These are all names that are familiar in the Caribbean American community. Yeah.
And Culture Jam, I think it was called at the time.
Yeah.
And he just walked in. And I started, me being young and energetic.
Yeah.
I started spewing what I wanted to do. And he said, well, I said, listen, if you can pipe Jamaica into New York, we have a deal. He said, well, I can. I said, what? And he went into, back then the technology was ISDN, which was, at the time the largest thing. So what happened was he said he works as an engineer during the day, and he's been a radio engineer for a long time, radio and satellite engineer. And I said, well, can you make it happen? He said, well, yeah. So I said, well, who are we going to pipe into New York? He said, well, the best station in Jamaica at the time just started was Irie FM. I said, okay. Me being, again, young, naive, and energetic, I said, okay. And I have a travel agency, so I flew to Jamaica. I went to Irie FM in Whereitzat, Jamaica. And I said, I need to speak with Mr. Carl Young. This is a sumo wrestler-looking Chinese man.
Yeah. You have to know Carl.
Right.
Yeah.
And he said, in his patois, nope. You guys are going to take my good Jamaican radio station and carry it to foreign and destroy it.
Yeah.
So I spent 2 weeks there convincing him after buying him lunch every day and taking care of the staff and being annoying. And he said yes. His general manager at the time was Mr. Clive McKenzie,
Yeah.
who's still a great friend and mentor to me. And we managed to sign a contract, and we started Irie Jam 1993. And the response was amazing. You had mothers crying when they heard their children's voice for the first time in umpteen years being away from
Because what you did was linked Jamaica to New York.
directly. So you're hearing them in real time, saying, "Hey, send the money for the baby. Make sure you send the money for the family." And it became an instant phenomenon in New York, and that's where we started. We did the journey started there, and it became a household name in years. And then we managed to know from back then was the voice of the community. The community had no voice.
Yeah.
It had no real connection because they're separated. There's no media. So we did that, and we did it on WVIP, and we made sure that the audience had true connections. Once we did that, then we made sure their businesses got attention, their events got attention, their politics got attention. So it's a dream come true for anybody who goes out on these missions and actually bring them to fruition.
As you well know, we can we understand your journey because Chris and I we were on 105.9 back in about that
93.
was 93.
1993.
1993. That's dating you, man.
Yeah.
So
I was 20 years old.
Here's the thing. My approach was, although a little bit different from you, was hopefully to accomplish the same purpose, right? Because as a clinician, then I was a counselor, right, a psychotherapist, and I dealt with largely Jamaicans, Caribbean folks who were sort of separated from their culture, and this puts people in a kind of isolation that makes them feel lonely. They miss home, they miss their food, they miss their music, they miss all the things that made life enjoyable and worthwhile for them. And you were able to, I can't say the keystroke because it wasn't that computerized then, but certainly by bringing the signal here, you created a platform where people could now, with the turn of a dial, be back in touch with home
on a regular basis.
And no, but Bobby, that required a tremendous amount of work. It mean getting talent together. How did you amass the talent? How did you put all that together?
You know what? I give all thanks to the Lord because I truly believe that There was a divine intervention that brought that team together. And I'll mention Dub Master Chris. I'll mention DJ Roy, my business partner Louis Grant.
Yeah.
Back then we had Aubrey Campbell. We had Colleen the Dancehall Queen with news.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people who saw the vision and subscribed immediately. It wasn't a sell. It wasn't even a long conversation. It was, yes, let's do it. Yes, let's do it. And it was putting together a team that understood how to interact with the diaspora. And it became a joy to go to work, a joy to be a part of this thing that was energetic and full of effervescence. Because when you hear the response from the audience that you serve, as it's overwhelming. It's oh my Lord, finally we can have this voice and we can talk and we can push and we can do whatever we need to do to get our people involved. Because up until then, Brooklyn had no idea what was happening in the Bronx. I mean, Queens had no idea what was happening.
That's an excellent point. You know,
There was a disconnect. There was a disconnect and a void. You know,
Right.
yeah.
So you'd have this major event happening in the Bronx that nobody knew about in Queens. And it was because it was word of mouth. You know, the social media just started to come around then, so it wasn't even a big thing. So
Yeah.
that void that we filled was essential, and it was amazing to see the response. And I can't lie, we benefited from it tremendously, and we've made a platform that now can push the agenda for us.
but you did something. Go ahead.
Yeah, no,
Chris.
I was gonna say, like, you know, just thinking back, I know the history because obviously I've been around it, I've seen. But what are some of the biggest highlights you could say? I mean, you're talking about 30 years. I know there were some things you created. I know, I'm not going to speak for you, that were amazing.
You might
And-
have to. I'm older now, so you might have to. The memory isn't going, but
No. But I mean, you know, you had all these events that were one of a
Precisely.
kind.
That's where I was going.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Alright, so the radio wasn't ours. We released the time from the radio stations.
right.
So when we have our weekly meetings, we said, okay, let's find ways other than advertising to create income for us to sustain ourselves as a business. And we said, you know what, events are needed and events are important. Not realizing the monster we'd create when we did Irie Jamboree, which is a major event that ended up from humble beginnings in Royal Wilkins Park to Barclays Center, to create upwards of 20,000 people in a park on a regular basis. And that in itself allowed Jamaicans and Caribbean nationals who have never experienced a concert from expressing their culture. So when you have children who were born here of Caribbean parents who are now seeing exactly what it means to be Caribbean, it became a overwhelming emotion for a lot of people. So we were one of the first to put it out there and to get it done. We had, of course, everybody, Buju Banton, we've had Paris Hammond,
You brought in the stars.
brought in the stars. for
Sean
the
Paul.
Yeah.
Beanie, Bounty, everybody.
Lady saw.
Ladies,
Yeah.
Right. So we did years of event promotion that changed the landscape of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut because of the radio being our catalyst, and because we put together, we really strive to put together shows that would not only serve one aspect of the community, but the entire community. So from if you're 12 to 85, those shows should connect with you in a big way. And we did that, and we did it very well.
You know, you accomplished a number of things, and this is what I struggled with when I just started. When I started my practice, I realized that there was a disintegrated Caribbean community. As you mentioned, the Bronx didn't know what Queens was doing. The Nassau County didn't know what what even Queens, that is right next door,
True.
was actually doing.
Sure.
And you managed to change the cultural landscape. Because one of the things you did with the big shows were that restaurants who wanted to show off their food had a chance as vendors to come to that venue. And people who were tasting, I'm sure first, second generation Caribbeans were tasting real, authentic yard food for the first time.
True.
So we can't underestimate the impact of that. But there's something you mentioned that we think we need to elaborate on a little bit more. It's a question of leasing time. You know, people are not aware of the concept, and they assume that once you're on a platform, you either own it or somehow you're grandfathered into it, and it's something that you're doing because you're wealthy. So you're benevolent and you're giving them all, but it costs money.
We strive to be benevolent. We strive to be the kind of people who look to give it all away, but the cost is tremendous. And it gives us pause for years because many a times we weren't able to pay for the airtime and we had to figure out how to get the money to pay for the airtime to stay on air. So when the public would say, hey, why you don't just run my ad? I'm like, well, it costs money to run your ad.
But Bobby, let's break it down.
Yes.
Irie Jam platform, founded on a platform that already existed, actual radio station that existed. In this particular case, let's call spade a spade. We're talking about VIP,
which is no longer.
Which is no longer Whitney Radio. Correct. They charged you per hour.
Right.
An hourly rate.
Right. So to make it easier for the viewers and the listeners, it's $1.2 million a year is what I would pay to be on the radio with the amount of time I had. So that means I had to make over that to be profitable.
Over that to be profitable.
Right.
And make sure all the talent that you had amassed
are paid.
paid.
The idea is to run a business of that size, you really have to be creative and make sure that you have the wherewithal to sustain it. So when we started out doing 2 hours on a Saturday night connecting Jamaica, hey, this is easy, no problem. But when your payroll is over 20 grand a week and you have taxes and you have, it becomes, okay, it's a little challenging. So if you miss a payment, it becomes a catastrophe. So it's, well, let me start by saying I want to thank the former owners of WVIP for the opportunity to allow us to use their airwaves for that period that we were on it. And for some quick history, the owner, Mr. Bill O'Shaughnessy, was a one-in-a-kind individual. He believed that the airwaves should always be local and that you should always try and build your community with the airwaves. Hence why he said, I'll lease it out to the local community to build their businesses and make it work.
So he had that kind of mindset.
Right. So he was against big radio with 1,500 stations and a corporate structure that is there now. And he said, come, let's make it work. And we did that, and he was a part of conversations almost daily. So and he was a commissioner on the FCC board. So he's a wonderful person. He passed in August of last year.
Yeah, Bill is deceased now, right?
Right.
So.
And his children got involved. And they decided to sell it. And just to be clear, they did offer it to us at a price. We said, okay, no problem. We raised capital through banks and individuals. And then we were told that they've sold it to somebody else for way less.
I want you to pause on that,
Sure.
Bobby, because we want to really get into that. Folks, we're talking to Bobby Clark, CEO, Irie Jam Media, and against the background of a media company that grew exponentially in the Caribbean American space, that brought people from the Caribbean diaspora together. to make us realize that we have some of the same tastes, we eat similar foods, we speak similar languages, and this tremendous effort met with demise recently. Irie Jam is no longer on the airwaves, and Bobby Clark and his team are looking for a platform to make sure that the franchise that they had built for over 30 years of hard and enduring labor, that franchise somehow continues to survive. Bobby, I'm going to use the word robbed because the station was offered to you, but your response somehow was rejected. And what happened?
Well, here's the story. The story is that their father left the station to them. They, I guess, out of courtesy, or I truly don't believe that was ever offered to us properly, or they had any intent to sell it to us, for whatever reason that may be. So they offered a ridiculous price. We got close to getting that done, and then they said, "Oh wait, no, it's okay. We're going to sell it over here instead." And that's the lump sum of the story. That's how it went down. And there's many political reasoning behind that. There's community issues. There's I won't go as far as say racism, but there is a lot of issues behind how that went down, and left our community angry. We're definitely devastated as a company of the loss of income, and of our community's access to a platform that they use as theirs for 30 years and 40 years. So it's important to understand that, it's a business, and people can do what they want with their property, and without any thought of anything else. And that's the basis of how it went down. A disrespect for our community. And what that says to me is we have to own our own. We have to be able to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And,
yeah, Bobby, we're getting close to a point. Obviously, we're going to be wrapping up. But as you think about next steps, I mean, obviously, that there has to another chapter has to be written.
Of course.
If you could share some of what without disclosing too much.
So this is the fun part, and I'm excited to not talk about it, because I can't. Here's the story. We're in the process of negotiating a couple deals, and Irie Jam is a monster that will never die, and I want the public to know that.
Yeah,
we'll never die.
Yeah.
But we're also in an expansion mode, and that was the part of the 30th celebration. I can say that we're in the process of buying another radio station, and we're working through that deal. Now it's not closed yet, so it might go left or right, but we're hoping it will go in our direction. And then there's other deals that we're working on to give us global access, even in a bigger way, to do not just New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, but to affect our communities globally in a big way. And that's all I can say about that.
Yeah.
And then there's the events that are coming back for 2024 that we're doing. And I want to say before I end this that you are major players in the community. And I don't want to come on the platform and get off without saying, without what you've done and without your legacy, I would be nothing. So it's a love for this group. Whereitzat is not just a magazine. It's a foundation. It's an institution that, like Irie Jam, has made a pillar here in the community. So as you have done, I'm going to follow suit, and I'm going to make sure that your legacy and my legacy and the legacy of what we've done doesn't die. And that's the mission and the vision that we're working towards. and it's always been there. And I want to say thanks to the community, because during this purgatory period that we've been, that we've been in for a couple months now, there's been tons of support. There's been tons of, you realize that without the voice that they've lost, they're now energized to say what's happening, what can I do, how much money can I give, and I'm like, well, we're working on it. And if I get 700 calls a day, that's a little bit. It happens to be a major, loss for the community. We're back in.
We're still in sackcloth and ashes, man.
Right.
We're mourning.
Yeah.
We're literally
nothing,
mourning.
There's nothing that exists for us, to for our voices to be heard in on
Chris,
radio.
how do we communicate to folks who have no concept of what Irie Jam has done? Is there?
I mean, aside from here, we continue to promote it in Whereitzat, because Bobby, one of the things that we want you to walk away from here knowing is that whatever else you have to share, we have print, and we, print is, print is Bible, His word. It's
like the U.S. is the Israel. The allies that I trust and believe in most is Whereitzat. So it has to be understood that without a team, nothing happens. And I'm nobody without my team, and my wife, Cindy Shea Clark, and my family are the rock that I lean on day and night. So it's important to know that outside of that, these professional joinings that we do are really important to the whole community. And I'm excited. I'm very excited about the next steps, because it's going to be huge. And again, I always say that God is in charge.
Oh yeah.
This adversity that He's putting us through is to lift us up in a bigger and better way. So I'm excited about what He's doing in our community and in our lives in our community. That I can't say, but we're doing all it is to make sure that we get there.
Let's spend the last couple of minutes sort of focused on the business community. We're talking about Caribbean American businesses, which have grown, tremendously over the last couple of decades, right? Folks, and Bobby, I want you to put in that appeal as well. Folks, you have a business. You want to succeed in that business. That business is your source of income. However, in order for others to know about that business, you got to advertise it. You got to promote it. And we happen to have been in the trenches for decades, ensuring that businesses like yours get seen and get heard, and that people know in Brooklyn that you are in Queens, or you're in the Bronx, or you're in wherever you are in the 5 boroughs. People will know. That's what we help you do, and that's the platform that Irie Jam is. I'm not going to say was. That's the platform that Irie Jam is. Chris, you before Bobby.
Listen, I'm part of that history.
Of course.
And so, the reason why you're here today is because we want to make sure people are aware of what's happening and what's to come, and also people see you, because the more we make sure, the more we show the faces behind this amazing legacy that you've built, is the more I think it'll resonate with people, the urgency and the importance of making sure that we maintain it, that we uplift it, and that we see it continue to move to the next level.
Sure.
So for us, it's critical that we continue to support you, and it's critical that we continue to report on whatever it is that you're doing. So we know that we're probably going to have you back. Not probably. You're going to be back.
You're going to be back.
You're going to be back. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, because there's going to be a part 2 and a part 3.
Yeah.
As you talk about 2024, I know there's a lot more in store. So we thank you for being here with us.
Sure.
We look forward to the next chapter, the next conversation.
A quick final, 15 seconds,
I
Bobby.
just wanted to say that the mission for Irie Jam and Caribbean Global Network is to actually uplift the Caribbean community globally. And that will never change. And that is why we're here. So if you need to gain anything from this, is that you have a platform. We own a platform that you, a Caribbean member, all you have to do is reach out to us to make sure that you can be a part of the growth that we're about to do in this community. And I need everybody to be a part of the community experience. Buy Caribbean, shop Caribbean, spend with you. It's nice to spend with other communities, but it's important to spend with yours. And that's what I need to say.
Social media?
IrieJamRadio.com, on Instagram, on Facebook, and Twitter, same.
Excellent. You're with Whereitzat. You can find us, go Whereitzat, on all social media networks.
Go where it's at.
Instagram, Twitter, well, X. X. And of course, go whereitzat.com. So we'll be back. We've got lots more in store for you.
Our next guest is going to be Nala Royale.
Our next episode,
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Dunn's River Restaurant and Lounge. A very interesting woman that you want to hear from. I'm Clive.
I'm Chris, I think.
This is where it's at. This is where we are. And this is where it's at. A very good day to you.